Chapter 4167. Let's begin, 2U. Ted by BXN0VL. Siamikron ha ha ha, how interesting. The fourth prince clapped his hands. Since you people are so arrogant, why don't you make a bet with me? Well, Feng Sun couldn't make the decision on his own. Feng Wu had to make the call. What? Are you going to back off now that we're making a bet? The person behind the fourth prince taunted, and the others all laughed. Feng Wu walked up to Feng Sun and stared at the fourth prince. Fine, I'll take the bet. I'm not afraid of you. The fourth prince smiled at Feng Wu. Fine. Let's make it bigger. Feng Wu said, Go ahead. The fourth prince said, If you lose, you'll become my maid. How about that? Before Feng Wu could say anything, Yuminji and Feng Sun grew anxious and wanted to hit the fourth prince. Feng Wu stopped them. I know I'm going to win, but I promised someone that I wouldn't use myself as a stake. I can't do that. Name a new price. Jun Linyun glanced at Feng Wu. Are you going to say no to such a great offer? Feng Wu couldn't believe her ears. What kind of offer was that? Him, then. The fourth prince pointed at Yuminji. If your team loses, send him to the fourth prince's residence. Yuminji was furious. You. Feng Sun chuckled before Yuminji could finish. Deal. Yuminji glared at Feng Sun. Feng Sun. You. Feng Sun patted Yuminji on the shoulder. Yuminji, don't worry. Boss Xiao Wu will keep an eye on you. We won't send you away. Don't worry. Yuminji turned his head in frustration. Although he knew that Feng Wu was bound to win, he still felt conflicted. Feng Wu chuckled and said to Yuminji, Feng Sun is right. I'm not going to lose. Trust me. What more could Yuminji say? What if you lose? Feng Wu stared at the fourth prince and decided that she would make him pay. The fourth prince gave it some thought and said, Pick whatever you want from my residence. Feng Wu asked, Are you sure? The fourth prince said, Of course. Feng Wu nodded. Everyone here heard you, and a lot of people are watching outside. You won't go back on your word, will you? The fourth prince said, Do you think I'll go back on my word? Let's sign an agreement. Feng Wu nodded. That's what I was waiting for. They soon signed the agreement, and someone said, If Feng Wu's team can't pass the first round, she won't get a chance to fight the fourth prince. The fourth prince stared at Feng Wu. You won't lose to Murong's team, will you? No, you're definitely going to lose. Feng Wu threw a dirty look at the fourth prince. I'm not going to lose. Go get your money ready. The fourth prince was speechless. As a matter of fact, he had never been treated like this before. However, Feng Wu seemed to intimidate him somehow, as if it was only natural that he should listen to her. How strange. Soon, the two teams were the only ones left on the stage. Feng Wu arranged the order of the players. Duan Chaoge was the first to go on the stage, followed by Feng Sun, Xian Yi, Yuminji, and herself. After that, Feng Wu turned to Murong Linhai. Let's go. To Feng Wu's surprise. Chapter 4168. Let's fight, 3U. Ted by BXN0VL. Siamikron to Feng Wu's surprise. Murong Linhai suddenly waved at Feng Wu. We give up. What? Feng Wu wasn't the only one surprised. The crowd and the other teams were all staring at Murong Linhai in astonishment. Give up? How could Murong Linhai abstain from such an important competition? What a son had the Murong family raised. Yan Qian glared at Murong Linhai. Don't tell me you've given up because you've been conquered by her beauty and want to do her a favor. Help her. Murong Linhai thought to himself. I wish I could, but I need to be capable enough to do that. Of course, Murong Linhai didn't say that aloud. Instead of answering the question, he cupped his fists at Feng Wu and said indifferently, We Imo were no match for Miss Feng Wu in this round. I wish you all the best. Feng Wu glanced at Murong Linhai and nodded. The others didn't know what to say. Feng Wu was so arrogant. Feng Wu glanced at Liang Jin when she heard no reply. Liang Jin was the host of this battle. Liang Jin smiled bitterly in his head, but he still said, Feng Wu has won this round. The next round will be the battle between the Yen Prince's residence and the Primordial Pagoda. Feng Wu and the others left the arena. I didn't know that Murong Linhai would forfeit. Feng Sun gloated. Crossing his arms, Yu Minji said grumpily, I was looking forward to fighting him. You don't know how he looks at Xiao Wu. What are you two talking about? Enjoy the game. Feng Wu had to cut them off. Yan Qian led her team, and the Primordial Pagoda was led by Chanshin, a monk. Each side would send one member at first, and the winners would continue to fight on the stage, while the losing team would send a second member. The battle went on. They were evenly matched, and soon, both sides had the last player. Yan Qian was the last in her team. On the Primordial Pagoda's side, Chanshin was the last to show up. Yan Qian was definitely more capable than Princess Yanling, but she wasn't as good as Prince Yanyu. Come to think of it, she was about the same level as Feng Sun. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder at Feng Sun, who nodded. I'm sure I can defeat her. Rubbing her chin, Feng Wu was perplexed. People of the Dayan Empire were supposed to be so talented and resourceful that they could make breakthroughs much faster than outsiders. However, after Feng Sun's training, he had reached Princess Yan Qian's level. Feng Wu wasn't sure how capable the people of the Dayan Empire were, so she asked Ji Xingqing, What level is Princess Yan Qian? Ji Xingqing said seriously, Princess Yan Qian is the second best student of the younger generation in the Yan Manor, second only to Prince Yanyu. That's already very impressive. Feng Wu asked, Are you serious? Ji Xingqing nodded. Of course. Moreover, their family clan has invested a lot of resources in her. Therefore, among the younger generation, Yan Qian is the most talented girl. She's amazing. Feng Wu had a rough idea. Meanwhile, the battle was coming to an end. With her clever moves, Princess Yan Qian finally won the battle against the Primordial Pagoda. Liang Jin announced the next battle. Formless Sword Sect vs. Red Feather Room. The Formless Sword Sect was good with swords, and Red Feather Room only had female members. The battle was very fast. Chapter 4169. Let's Fight 4. Soon, the Formless Sword Sect won. Good job. The second senior brother of the Formless Sword Sect cupped his fists at Fairy Ziyun of Red Feather Room. The faces of the women of the Red Feather Room darkened, but they still accepted the result in the end. After a short battle, the four teams who won were Feng Wu, the Dynasty, Yen Family, and the Formless Sword Sect. Liang Jin's Mountain Sea Academy had been defeated, and he would be lying if he said that he wasn't sad. But Ji Xingqing comforted him. Senior brother, do you think you can defeat the Dynasty team? Do you think you can defeat the fourth prince? Liang Jin hesitated for a while before shaking his head. Ji Xingqing asked, Senior brother, are you confident that you can defeat Feng Wu's team? Liang Jin shook his head. Of course not. Ji Xingqing said, That's it then. We can't defeat either Dynasty team or Feng Wu's team, so what's the point of competing? Only the first place will be rewarded this time. The second place is useless. Liang Jin nodded. You're right. What we need to do now is to learn something from their battles. The Dragon's Gate banquet in the Imperial capital will be our real chance. Ji Xingqing nodded. The Mountain Sea Academy has that card up our sleeves. I'm sure senior brother Jinan won't disappoint us. Liang Jin asked the four captains to make the draw. The fourth prince, Feng Wu, Yi Erjian, and Yan Qian from the Yan Manor all rolled the dice. The fourth prince picked Yan Qian. Feng Wu got the Formless Sword Sect. It was obvious that the fourth prince was very calm, and Yan Qian looked embarrassed. The result was the same. The fourth prince easily defeated Yan Qian's team. Thank you. The fourth prince cupped his fists and beamed at Yan Qian. Although she had lost, Yan Qian didn't look very angry. She cupped her fists and smiled bitterly. Your Royal Highness, I'm afraid that you're going to take all the pills. Would you like to sell one to me? The fourth prince waved his hand. Well, it's not completely out of the question. It'll depend on what price Sister Yan Qian is willing to pay. They began to talk about the rewards. Feng Wu raised her eyebrows a little. Meanwhile, Yuminji cupped his fists and said to them with a half-smile, Do you really think that the pill is yours? Are you going to share the spoils now? Aren't you afraid of losing? The fourth prince's face darkened. Yan Qian threw a dirty look at Yuminji. Hey, watch your language. Many people were talking about Yuminji as well, for they believed that the fourth prince's team was bound to win. How could they not? That was impossible. Yuminji gave her a half-smile. What do you mean by hey? Am I wrong? Tell me, what did I say wrong? Yan Qian stared at Yuminji coldly. Instead of answering his question, she snorted. You should count yourself lucky that you didn't have the chance to fight me. Otherwise, before Yuminji could say anything, Feng Sun smirked. You're the lucky one. Otherwise, you wouldn't be standing here talking to us. Princess Yan Qian was suffocated. Chapter 4170. Let's Fight 5. Princess Yan Qian felt suffocated. She couldn't for the life of her figure out how a commoner from the wilderness could challenge her. She then turned to the formless sword sect. Brother Yi, please teach these people a lesson for me. The formless sword sect had always been close to Prince Yan's residence, and Yi Erjian knew Princess Yan Qian well. The two families had even considered getting married. Therefore, Yi Erjian nodded. Of course. And they weren't the only ones watching. Normally, all four forces and 6 sects could watch it, but because it was a battle between youngsters, the elders might not have time to watch it. They didn't have time to watch the first 17 trials on Dynasty Road. As for the final battle, they had anticipated that the fourth prince would win, so they didn't want to watch it either. Therefore, only a handful of families were watching the battle. Prince Yen was watching. So was the Luo family. The head of the Mountain Sea Academy was also watching, and next to him was Qiu Zhenan, the genius of the college. On one side of the arena was the formless sword sect, and Feng Wu's team was on the other. Yuminji glanced at Feng Wu. You don't have to fight this battle. You're the last to go. Feng Wu said, well. For once, Feng Sun had the same opinion as Yuminji. He nodded at Feng Wu and said, That's right. This is a rare opportunity. Don't try to take it away from us. Just wait behind us. You'll never get to fight. Well, make it very clear for you. Before Feng Wu could say anything, the members of the formless sword sect flared up. Yuminji and Feng Sun didn't try to keep their voices down when they said those words. Yi Erjian smirked. How arrogant of you! Since you're so arrogant, we'll show you what we've got. The bosses watching the battle outside didn't like Feng Wu's team either. Which team is this? Lord Yen frowned at Feng Wu's team. Standing next to him, Yen Yu recognized Feng Wu right away, and his face darkened. Yen Yu had told him about what happened in the Junwu Empire, so he said, Father, the girl in the red dress is Feng Wu, and the other 4 are her friends. Feng Wu. Lord Yen found the name familiar as if he had heard it somewhere before. Yen Yu reminded him, the Junwu Kingdom. Is she the girl that Huyen Yanba is protecting? Huyen Yanba was Mu Jia's pupil, and he was one of the most capable cultivators on this continent. That was why Lord Yen gave Feng Wu a second look. Crossing his hands behind his back, the Lord said indifferently, But the girl isn't all that capable. Yen Yu opened his mouth but didn't say anything. Lord Yen was only watching the last round, but Prince Yen Yu had been watching Feng Wu since she entered Dynasty Road. Yen Yu had spent a lot of spiritual crystals in the past few months to see what Feng Wu had gone through on her way to the imperial capital. He had almost used up his own vault. Just then, the two teams started fighting. Feng Wu's team started with Duan Chaoga. Chapter 4171. Let's Fight 6 U. TED by BXN0VL. Xiaomicron M. Chaoga had indeed made some great progress, but she was still a little weaker than the other geniuses. Hence, she didn't last long enough to pass the first round. Xiao Wu, Chaoga looked at Feng Wu gingerly, feeling utterly guilty. That was expected, and Feng Wu didn't think much of it. She only encouraged Chaoga. You're doing well enough. Just think about it. 3 months ago, you couldn't even withstand a single strike from him, could you? Hearing that, Duan Chaoga tilted her head, gave it some thought, and nodded. That's right. I'm making progress already, but I need to work harder. After that, Feng Wu didn't need to remind her. She sat down cross-legged in the noisy place, and started cultivating right away. However, many people sneered at Duan Chaoga's defeat, and said that Feng Wu's team wasn't good enough. Their tone was full of sarcasm. Members of the Fourth Prince's team all snorted. The members of the Formless Sword sect didn't think much of Feng Sun and the others either. However, it was like what Feng Sun and Yuminji said. Feng Wu wouldn't be needed in this battle. If Feng Wu hadn't told them to keep some cards up their sleeves at first, Yuminji wouldn't have been given the chance. Thump. In the end, Yuminji kicked Yi Erjian, the leader of the team, off the stage. Resting his hands on his waist, he looked around and asked, "Who else is there? Bring it on." Feng Wu smacked her forehead. Why was he so silly? Meanwhile, the members of the Formless Sword sect were furious with Yuminji. Liang Jin announced, "Team Feng Wu has won the battle. The Dynasty team and Feng Wu's team will fight the last battle, and the winner will get the pill." The audience no longer looked down on Feng Wu's team as before. Because Feng Wu's team had indeed made it this far with their own capability. No matter how loudly the Formless Sword sect shouted, they still lost. The eyes of the onlookers lit up as well. Well, that's interesting. Lord Yen smiled. Feng Wu's team is quite something. Yen Ye's face darkened, and there was an indescribable look in his eyes. Back in the Junwu Empire a few months ago, both Yuminji and Feng Sun were only spiritual overlords. They hadn't even reached the spiritual saint stage yet. However, in the past few months, because of their talent and the cultivation resources Feng Wu found, right now they were almost as capable as Yen Yu was. Damn it! At that thought, he clenched his fist. He had to kill them all as soon as possible. Otherwise, they would become a burden to him in the future. In a few more months, he might not even be their match. Meanwhile, in the Luo family, Luo Zilin said to his brother, "Brother, look! That's our little Feng Wu." Luo Zihan, the eldest brother of the Luo family, and the first in line to inherit the family, was looking at Feng Wu with a gentle look in his eyes. "She's been through a lot," Luo Zihan said gently, sounding sympathetic for Feng Wu. Luo Zilin nodded. "That's right. She's been through a lot out there, but I didn't know she could be so capable. She has taken most of the treasures. If I had known." Chapter 4172. Let's Fight 7U. TED by BXN0VL. Siamikron M. Luo Zilin said, "If I had known, I wouldn't have gone to Dynasty Road with Yen Yu back then. I would have followed Xiao Wu and become her patron. That would have been wonderful." Luo Zihan said grumpily, "Didn't you see how dangerous her journey was?" When Luo Zilin came back, he took Luo Zihan with him to watch Feng Wu's performance on Dynasty Road. At first, the two brothers thought that Feng Wu would be lucky if she could get out alive, but the girl's reaction shocked them. She had narrowly escaped death several times, but she was so lucky and had received so many cultivation resources. "Is it the final battle? Is it?" The Luo brothers rushed in. Luo Zilin was the fourth son of the Luo family, and his other two older brothers were also here to watch the final battle. If their father hadn't been busy with some important business, he would be here as well. The four brothers of the Luo family had been watching Feng Wu for months. Although they hadn't met her yet, they were already very familiar with her and liked her from the bottom of their hearts. The head of the Mountain Sea Academy was very calm because his team wasn't fighting his battle. Liang Jin isn't up to the task after all. He looked over his shoulder at Qiujianan. "In the end, you're still going to be the head of the college. Qiu Zhenan nodded. We still have a few senior brothers and sisters. Master, please don't worry. His senior brothers and sisters. The principal smiled bitterly and didn't say anything else. Meanwhile, the final battle finally started. At first, only Lord Yan's residence, the Mountain Sea Academy, and the Luo family were watching, but now, the heads of the other sects were watching as well. Dynasty Road only opened once every 3 years, and geniuses would be born among these people. Would the fourth prince become famous this time? If he could defeat all his opponents in one go, he would probably be as important to His Majesty as the Crown Prince. After all, the Crown Prince used to be first as well. The fourth prince stared at Feng Wu. To Feng Wu, the battle might only be a competition for the pill, but to the fourth prince, it could decide if he could become one of the candidates for the throne. Chaoga was the first to fight. She had just made a breakthrough and become a spiritual saint, which amazed many people. Everyone looked at Duan Chaoga in amazement. After the battle, Duan Chaoga was covered in blood. While she flew off the stage, she also took a member of the dynasty team with her. The first round was a draw, and each side lost a player. Wait! Master Qilian, the head of the Red Feather Room, looked pleasantly surprised. Her quality, talent, and heartless cultivation technique are perfect for our sect. Master Qilian's disciples looked at one another in bewilderment. The eldest disciple couldn't help but say, Master, junior sister Xiun is a little more talented than her, isn't she? Master Qilian didn't answer the question, for even she couldn't tell who was more talented, Xiun or Miss Chaoga. Chapter 4173 Competition 1 Let's go! Master Qilian headed for the door. The other disciples looked at one another in bewilderment. Were they in a hurry to wait at the gate of Dynasty Road? Well. Meanwhile, the second round started. It was Feng Sun's turn, while Zhu Mingming was the one sent by the Dynasty team. The Zhu family was where the fourth prince's mother came from. Cousin! The fourth prince stared at Zhu Mingming, hinting that he had to kick Feng Sun out. A relaxed smile appeared on Zhu Mingming's face. He said indifferently, It's not a big deal. Just wait and see. Then, in the end, Feng Sun kicked Zhu Mingming off the stage, but Feng Sun remained on the stage, although he looked badly injured as well. It just so happened that, at that critical moment, Feng Sun had the impulse to make a breakthrough. Feng Wu took Feng Sun off the stage right away. Just sit there and make your breakthrough. Don't worry about the battle. The others were speechless when they saw this. Not only had Duan Chaoga made a breakthrough, but Feng Sun was also going to make a breakthrough. What was wrong with Feng Wu's team? Zhu Mingming was dumbfounded as well. He looked from himself to Feng Sun and couldn't believe his eyes. The two of them were evenly matched just then, but Feng Sun was making a breakthrough now, and when that happened, Feng Sun would be so much better than him. At that thought, Zhu Mingming looked at the fourth prince involuntarily. Meanwhile, the fourth prince didn't look too happy. He had a solemn look on his face, and his eyes darkened a little. The crown prince was watching the battle. Seeing this, he smiled and told the eunuch next to him, Go fetch His Majesty. This is getting more and more interesting. Seeing this, the Luo brothers couldn't help but laugh. Interesting. Maybe Xiao Wu really will win this battle. The head of the Mountain Sea Academy's eyes lit up, and Qiu Zhenan couldn't hide his excitement. Master, this Feng Sun is, the head of the Mountain Sea Academy nodded. You're right. His constitution is especially suitable for that cultivation technique. Let's go. The head of the Mountain Sea Academy, who had been disinterested, was also heading for the destination of Dynasty Road. Before long, Lord Yen, the Mountain Sea Academy, the Luo family, and the Red Feather Room all gathered at the end of Dynasty Road. The heads of the clans exchanged looks, and each had a plan. Because Feng Wu's team came from outside the empire, they had no masters in the Dian Empire. If they didn't recruit such a genius, when would they? Meanwhile, the battle was still going on. Xian Yi was the third player, and Chen Yi, the fourth prince's most valued study companion, was going up against him. If you lose, do as you see fit. Before Chen Jing went on the stage, the fourth prince was by his side and was threatening him in a low voice. Chen Yi cupped his fists at Prince. Your Royal Highness, don't worry. I'm going to win. Although Chen Yiran was the fourth prince's study companion, the Chen family wasn't just any family. They were one of the most influential families in the Dian Empire, and Chen Jing was the most promising member of the younger generation. He enjoyed the best cultivation resources of the clan. Bring it on. The two of them were evenly matched. It was the longest battle and the most thrilling one. Xian Yi was covered with cuts and bruises, and Chen Yi wasn't any better. What's his name? Lord Yen asked Yen Yu. Chapter 4174. Competition 2. It was obvious that Lord Yen was interested in Xian Yi. Yen Yu frowned a little, but still said, Xian Yi. His name is Xian Yi. Lord Yen frowned a little. You didn't mention him when you came back from the Junwu Empire. Yen Yu said, he wasn't a spiritual saint when we were in the Junwu Empire, so I didn't mention him. Lord Yen nodded. He's qualified now. Do you know what to do? Yen Yu said, yes. Lord Yen, what's that supposed to mean? Are you going to take him away from the formless sword sect? Ah. Someone laughed and came toward Prince Yen. Lord Yen recognized the voice right away. Yi Buki, what are you doing here? Yi Buki, the head of the formless sword sect, was known as the fierce sword of the world. He was known for his unruly behavior and mysterious whereabouts. Lord Yen didn't expect to meet him here today. Yi Buki crossed his arms and looked at the battlefield. He then said to Lord Yen, this Xian Yi is impressive. Hell suit the formless sword sect. Prince Yen asked, is the formless sword sect trying to compete for him? With Yi Buki laughed. So, Lord Yen, are you trying to take him away from me? Lord Yen snorted. Yi Buki said, if there's a genius in the outer region, all 4 forces and 6 sects will have a chance to recruit them. It's not like they belong to you. If you really want them, I'd advise you to show some sincerity. There's no reason for him to follow you just because you want him. Lord Yen smirked. I'm recruiting him. Of course he's coming. What a joke. Yi Buki guffawed. Fine, fine. Feel free to do whatever you want. We'll see if he'll go to Lord Yan's residence or the formless sword sect. Xian Yi had no idea that 2 families were already competing over him before the battle was over. Yen Yu glanced at Lord Yen but didn't say anything. He didn't dare to admit what he had done to offend Feng Wu and her people in the Junwu Empire, and it would be very difficult to recruit them now. By then, the battle had finally ended. After 36 strikes, Xian Yi finally pushed Chen Yi off the stage. Xian Yi of Feng Wu's team has won this battle, Liang Jin announced. The crowd watched Feng Wu fight with different looks in their eyes. Many people had been talking about how lucky the team was to make it to the finals, but no one said that anymore. If they had relied on their luck, did it mean that the fourth prince's team had lost the battles on purpose? The fourth prince's team only has 2 players left, while Feng Wu's team has 3. It's going to be a little confusing. Not necessarily. The fourth prince hasn't joined the battle yet. Once he does, Xian Yi and Yu Minji won't be his match. But don't they still have Feng Wu? I bet Feng Wu isn't that capable. That can't be. She's their last card up their sleeve. She could be a trump card or a cripple. I think it's very likely that Feng Wu is useless because she hasn't made a move yet. I think she's scared. Was that it? Many people actually believed it. Chapter 4175. Competition 3U. TED by BXN0VL. Xiaomicron M. Feng Wu's team still had 3 people left, and they were Feng Wu, Yu Minji, and Xian Yi. However, there were only 2 people left on the fourth prince's side, the fourth prince and Yang Shu, the genius teenager. The fourth prince stared at Yang Shu. You've been doing a great job so far, and I've given you the resources you need this time. Yang Shu, don't disappoint me. Yang Shu nodded solemnly. The fourth prince took a deep breath and warned him again. My brother has to be watching this battle. If I lose, many people on my side will have other plans. This battle is very important to our future. Yang Shu nodded again. As expected, after Yang Shu entered the arena, Xian Yi was severely injured and lost after only half of the battle. The fourth prince smiled. Yang Shu didn't disappoint him. However, Yu Minji soon showed up and Yang Shu was defeated. The fourth prince was speechless. Meanwhile, everyone in and out of the arena was staring at Yu Minji in astonishment. Many people were even asking who he was. So did the crowd outside. Yi Byuki of the Formless Sword sect nodded. He's a nice teenager. In terms of cultivation talent, he's probably slightly better than Xian Yi. He added, but Xian Yi is better at the sword. Yu Minji is a good choice for the Murong family. He'll suit the Luo family as well. I also find him very suitable. The heads of the clan treated each other with great respect, but this was a rare opportunity for them to compete for genius, and none of them would give in. After all, almost all the geniuses who were on the dynasty road before had come from the 4 forces and 6 major sections. Who could possibly recruit them? They were the treasures of their families and clans, and no one would be able to recruit them. But things were different now. It just so happened that these kids were all from other regions and had no sect or foundation in the Dayan Empire. Moreover, they were all geniuses with great talent. Every sect would want them. Having them would be such a great deal. Hence, none of the masters gave in. Even the head of the Luo family had to fly over here to wait, fearing that someone would take Feng Wu away. While the heads had high hopes for the young genius they wanted to win over, the battle was still going on inside. Right now, Yu Minji and the fourth prince were fighting. Feng Wu's team still had Feng Wu left, but the fourth prince was on his own. If the fourth prince lost, the battle would be over. If the fourth prince won, the final battle would be between Feng Wu and him. Feng Wu saw that Yu Minji, who had always been unperturbed, had finally become serious. Every move he made was very precise and methodical. I didn't expect Yu Minji to make such rapid progress. Seeing that the battle was still going on, Feng Wu couldn't help but sigh at Feng Sun. Before I came to Dynasty Road, Yu Minji was nowhere near as capable as the fourth prince. But now, it's hard to tell who's going to win. It won't be long before he exceeds the fourth prince. Feng Wu didn't try to keep her voice down, so everyone close to her heard it, including the fourth prince. He gave Feng Wu a dirty look. Feng Wu shrugged. Why are you staring at me? You're just not that good. Chapter 4176. Competition for You. TED by BXN0VL. Siomicron. I'm not weaker than him. Just wait and see. The fourth prince threw a dirty look at Feng Wu before turning back to Yu Minji. Unfortunately, Yu Minji wasn't easy to handle. If the fourth prince had ignored Feng Wu and focused on fighting Yu Minji, he might have had a chance to win. However, he couldn't stand it and wanted to say something harsh to Feng Wu. One couldn't afford to be distracted in a battle between two capable cultivators. Yu Minji wouldn't give him that kind of a chance. Therefore, thump. Yu Minji kicked the fourth prince's sword out of the arena. Ah! The audience cried out in surprise. The fourth prince was dazed for a brief moment before he was kicked away by Yu Minji. He made an arch in the air before falling to the ground with a thump. Rubbing the tip of his nose with his right thumb, Yu Minji gloated at the fourth prince, who had fallen to the ground, and asked loudly, "Anyone else?" The fourth prince was speechless. The audience was astonished. Everyone stared at Yu Minji as if he was a monster. That was incredible. Was he really from another continent? Ji Xingqing took his senior brother's hand and said, "Senior brother, please announce the result." Liang Jin was equally shocked and only realized what had happened when Ji Xingqing reminded him. He stood on the stage and announced loudly, "Yu Minji is the winner." Before the fourth prince could react, Liang Jin heaved a sigh of relief and announced loudly, "Feng Wu's team won this battle." Gosh, everyone fell silent for a moment before there was a round of applause. However, no one dared to make another sound after the fourth prince cast a stern look at them. However, everyone was looking around. Yi Erjian of the Formless Sword Sect, Fairy Ziyun of the Red Feather Room, and many others gave the fourth prince indescribable looks, but the look they gave Yuminji was even more so. Especially Fairy Ziyun, whose eyes twinkled when she looked at Yuminji. Feng Wu was a little disappointed, for she didn't even have a chance to fight in the competition. However, Feng Wu wasn't all that into fighting herself, so she didn't mind if she didn't have a chance. She went up to the stage and asked Ji Xingqing, "Shall we take the prizes now?" She wasn't trying to urge him, but the fourth prince's glare frightened everyone. Liang Jin even forgot to announce the prize. Hearing Feng Wu's reminder, Liang Jin smiled bitterly. "That's right. It's time for the reward." His Royal Highness, the fourth prince, had the pills. Because the fourth prince had never expected to lose, he didn't hand them over. Immediately, all eyes were on the fourth prince. The fourth prince's face was livid. Meanwhile, Zhu Mingming and the others were already trying to help the fourth prince to his feet. However, the fourth prince threw off his hand and turned to leave. Just then, Feng Wu and Liang Jin changed the subject to the fourth prince, and all eyes were on him. The fourth prince felt a chill run down his spine. Feng Wu asked hesitantly, "Your Royal Highness, where are you going? Don't you have the pills? Are you going to take what's not yours?" The fourth prince was astonished, turned around and smirked at Feng Wu. "So what if it's true? You're just a commoner." Everyone was intimidated by the fourth prince's ruthless tone and didn't dare to speak. Chapter 4177 Competition 5 Feng Wu wasn't intimidated at all. Crossing her arms, she smiled at the fourth prince. "Well, I see that you've lost. Are you trying to intimidate me like a prince now?" Feng Wu turned to Liang Jin. "Didn't you say that all the major clans were watching this battle? So, they'll see keep his word." The fourth prince was speechless. Could Feng Wu be any more annoying? Prince as someone who wouldn't on any other day, the fourth prince would have taken the pills, but with all the big shots watching, he couldn't be so willful. It just so happened that the fourth prince was used to enjoying privileges, so he hated Feng Wu to the bone. "There you go." The fourth prince threw a bottle of pills at Feng Wu. If Feng Wu wasn't capable enough, her head would be smashed to pieces by the bottle. "Watch out!" Ji Xingqing and Liang Jin cried out, but they were too far away from Feng Wu to stop the bottle. Yuminji caught the bottle with one hand and raised an eyebrow at the fourth prince. "I've defeated you. Who are you trying to scare?" The fourth prince was so angry that he didn't know what to say. "There you go." Yuminji handed the bottle to Feng Wu. Some people looked at Feng Wu suspiciously. Feng Wu hadn't made a move this whole time. What was her level? Or was she a hidden cripple as everyone had speculated? Just then, they heard a voice. "Your Royal Highness is here, Lord Yen is here, Master Luo is here, the head of Red Feather Room is here, the head of the Formless Sword Sect is here, Master Murong is here, the head of the Mountain Sea Academy is here. Apart from the Sacred Mu Cliff and the Primordial Pagoda, all the heads of the other 7 forces were here." The Dayan Empire was represented by the eldest prince, who was the most popular among the princes. Therefore, he represented the empire more than the fourth prince did. "Would you like to come to the Red Feather Room?" Master Qilian quickly walked up to Chowga and smiled at her. Duan Chowga hesitated. She turned around and looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Before Master Qilian could say anything, her eldest pupil said, "We're from the Red Feather Room, which is where women of Dayan cultivate. Your Flower Valley's cultivation technique that you're using comes from our sect." Duan Chowga had learned the cultivation technique from Hua Wuqing, but the manual was incomplete, and she had been stuck there. Therefore, when Master Qilian mentioned the cultivation technique, Duan Chaoga was tempted, but she went up to Feng Wu and shook her head at Master Qilian. She wasn't going to leave Feng Wu. Seeing Luo Zilin winking at her, Feng Wu waved at him. Luo Zilin whispered in Feng Wu's ear, Master Qilian has similar cultivation techniques to Chaoga. They're of the same heritage. Haven't you been trying to improve her cultivation? Let her go to the Red Feather Room. I promise you that she'll make great progress. Feng Wu hesitated. But the Red Feather Room is, Luo Zilin said. The Red Feather Room is an aloof place and has never been involved in any internal strife. It's a great cultivation sect. Look at Master Qilian. She looks like she has found a treasure. I'm sure she'll put a lot of effort into Chaoga. I think she's going to become the next head of the sect. Chapter 4178. Competition 6. You found the fragment of the cultivation technique on Dynasty Road, didn't you? There's a complete one in the Red Feather Room. Master Qilian knew how much Feng Wu's words would affect Chaoga, so she spoke to Feng Wu in a serious tone. Feng Wu frowned. What if the Red Feather Room forces Chaoga to do things she doesn't want to do in the future? Master Qilian cut to the chase. If she doesn't want to do something, no one will force her. If that really happens, she can leave the Red Feather Room at any time. Moreover, after she comes to the Red Feather Room, she'll be my final disciple and the revered junior sister of the entire sect. If anyone dares to pick on her, I'll be the first to intervene. Everyone gave Feng Wu and Master Qilian strange looks. They were surprised that Feng Wu didn't want Duan Chaoga to join the Red Feather Room. Did she know what a great opportunity that was? They were even more surprised when they saw that Master Qilian would agree to anything in order to get Duan Chaoga. That was beyond their expectations. Is Duan Chaoga that talented? Did Master Qilian have to do this? Someone murmured in Fairy Xian's ear. Fairy Xian's face darkened. Someone next to her said, Duan Chaoga is indeed very talented and capable. What's more, she has risen to her current level in another world, which means that she still has more potential to explore. Moreover, her cultivation technique comes from the Red Feather Room. If I were Master Qilian, I wouldn't have given up on her either. It's just that Master Qilian has always been so proud. The fact that she can bring herself to do such a thing shows how important Duan Chaoga is to the sect. Fairy Xian's face darkened. In the end, Chaoga agreed to go to the Red Feather Room, but she had made it clear that if the Red Feather Room made her uncomfortable, she could leave at any moment. Feng Wu and the others didn't want to part with you, but they all knew that going to the Red Feather Room would help Chaoga's future. Hence, they said they would visit Chaoga later. To Feng Sun's surprise, it was his turn next. Feng Sun, would you like to join us? I'll welcome you on behalf of the Luo family. Luo Zilin turned around and grinned at Feng Sun. Feng Sun pointed at himself. Me? Are you sure you're inviting me? However, someone cut Luo Zilin off before he could say anything. The Murong family is a nice place too. Murong Linhai stepped out and smiled at Feng Sun. I forfeited the first round voluntarily. For that, you should at least consider the Murong family. Feng Sun mumbled, even if you fought us, do you think you would have won? Murong Linhai didn't know what to say. Just then, the head of the Mountain Sea Academy came out to invite Feng Sun. The Mountain Sea Academy? Feng Sun hesitated and turned to look at Feng Wu. Qiu Zhinan said to Feng Sun in a serious tone, your ultimate yang body and the cultivation technique you're using are of the same lineage as ours. They'll be very beneficial to your cultivation. The head of the Luo family nodded at Feng Wu. For some unknown reason, Feng Wu felt very close to the head of the Luo family, as if she had met him before. The Mountain Sea Academy might be a good choice, Feng Wu suggested to Feng Sun. Feng Sun said, but I want to stay with you. Chapter 4179. Im Your Brother, 1, uttered by Bexenville. Siamikron M. Luo Zilin said grumpily, the Dragon's Gate banquet is in 6 months. It'll be so easy for you to see Feng Wu then. Feng Sun turned to Feng Wu. Are you going to the Mountain Sea Academy then, Feng Wu? Of course, the Mountain Sea Academy would welcome her, but Feng Wu shook her head. I don't think I'll go, but it seems that it'll really suit you. Feng Wu had wanted to take Feng Sun to the Luo family, but if the Mountain Sea Academy was more suitable for him, she would prefer it. All right, Feng Sun agreed in the end. When it was Xian Yi and Yu Mingye's turn, many other sects tried to invite them. However, in the end, Xian Yi went to the Formless Sword sect, while Yu Mingyi went to the eldest prince's royal family. Feng Wu looked concerned when Yu Mingyi winked at her. Don't worry. I'll come to you as soon as I'm done. However, if you really miss me, why don't you come to the dynasty team with me? Feng Wu punched him. When it was Feng Wu's turn, she went to the Luo family. Exactly how capable is Feng Wu? I've never seen her fight. Is she really that weak? Maybe the Luo family has made the wrong choice. That was what many people thought. However, Ji Xingqing and Liang Jin couldn't help but smile bitterly when they saw that Feng Wu had gone to the Luo family. Feng Wu was one of the most talented cultivators with great potential. If she joined the Luo family would rise even higher. I don't think Feng Wu is good enough, Yi Erjian said with a smirk. Murong Linhai glanced at him but didn't say anything. Feng Wu isn't good enough? Soon, you'll see how good she is. After that, the bosses bid farewell with cupped fists and left with the geniuses they had recruited. Duan Chaoga went to the Red Feather Room. Feng Sun went to the Mountain Sea Academy. Xian Yi went to the Formless Sword sect. Yu Mingyi went with the royal family. Feng Wu followed Luo Zilin and the head of the Luo family back home. The Luo family. The Luo family greeted Feng Wu with the highest standards when she arrived. Feng Wu tugged at Luo Zilin. Isn't that a little too grand? Luo Zilin grinned. It's not grand at all. I think it's just right. Feng Wu said, Didn't you say that you were going to tell me about my relationship with the Luo family? Can you tell me now? Luo Zilin grinned again. Father and the others are ready to tell you. Come with me. Let's go. When she got to the study, Feng Wu saw that the head of the Luo family was sitting in the middle of the room, and 4 teenagers stood behind him. The first one was a little older and seemed to be married, but the other 3 didn't seem to be. They were all smiling at Feng Wu in a friendly manner. Your mother is my sister, so you have to call me uncle. The head of the Luo family nodded at Feng Wu. He was usually a serious and reserved man, but because of his joy, he was smiling as well. That's right. I'm your 4th brother. I didn't take advantage of you, did I? Luo Zilin had worked very hard to keep the secret. Now that his father had made it clear, he began to yell at Feng Wu. I'm your eldest brother. I'm your 2nd brother. I'm your 3rd brother. The other 3 teenagers nodded at Feng Wu in a friendly manner as well, and they couldn't hide the joy on their faces. Chapter 4180. I'm your brother, too, uttered by Bexenville. Siamikron back in the Junwu Empire, Feng Wu had already guessed something from Luo Xilin's behavior. She had thought that they were related, but she didn't expect them to be so close. My uncle and brothers? Feng Wu didn't get to finish her sentence before someone answered with a nod. Feng Wu said, That is to say, my mother's surname is Luo. Are you sure you're not mistaken? It would be such a joke if they had mistaken her for someone else. Master Luo nodded. Your mother's surname is Luo, and she was born and raised in Dian. Something happened to her, and we thought she was killed, but we've been looking into the matter. There was an abnormal activity in Lord Yan's residence this time, and Zilin followed them. I didn't expect to find your mother by accident. Unfortunately, she had lost her memory by then, and she was as naive as a child. That was why he couldn't get much information out of her. Feng Wu said anxiously, My mother is missing. The head of the Luo family looked at Feng Wu and said, Your mother went missing and we've found out who took her. That's why we brought you here and told you about it. Feng Wu asked solemnly, "Who was it?" After some thought, Master Luo said, "Your father." "What?" Feng Wu stared at him in disbelief. Her father? Feng Wu had always thought that her father was dead. Wait, she received news a short while ago that her father was supposed to be in the Dian Empire, so? He's still alive? Is he really in the Dian Empire? How is he now? Why didn't he see me when he took my mother and Xiaoqi away? Feng Wu had a lot of questions, but Master Luo only shook his head. Because he's too ashamed to see you. Feng Wu asked, why? The head of the Luo family glanced at Luo Zilin. As a senior member of the family, he couldn't bring himself to say such things. Hence, Luo Zilin told Feng Wu the truth. Feng Wu was astonished. She stared at Luo Zilin. What? Luo Zilin nodded at Feng Wu. It's true. That's impossible. Feng Wu couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe that a supposed dead man had shown up in the Dian Empire and become the Princess Royal's husband. What's going on, then? If he is the Princess Royal's husband, why did he take my mother and Xiaoqi away? What does he want? And that Princess Royal? Feng Wu didn't know anything about the Dian Empire at first, but she had learned a little from Yen Yu and Luo Zilin, and Princess Royal didn't sound like a nice person to Feng Wu. Because she had colluded with Lord Yan's manor to destroy the Junwu Empire. Luo Zilin said, "We haven't figured out exactly what he wants to do, but your mother and Xiaoqi are indeed in the Princess Royal's residence now." Feng Wu asked, "Did they give my mother and Xiaoqi a hard time?" Luo Zilin said, "She would have, but with the Luo family around, the Princess Royal won't dare to do anything. However, that won't be the case for long. Now that you're here, you can make the decision yourself." Feng Wu took a deep breath to digest the news. Her father was the Princess Royal's husband. Feng Wu smiled bitterly inwardly. She would rather not have such a father. "I'm going to the Princess Royal's residence." Chapter 4181 Princess Royal's Husband 1, edited by Bexenville. Siamacronem in the Princess Royal's residence. This was the first time that Feng Wu had ever met her own father. The middle-aged man wore a purple robe and looked rather serious. Feng Wu realized right away that he was a capable cultivator, at least more capable than she was. Feng Wu was already a spiritual sovereign, which was one of the rare cases in the Dian Empire. However, Feng Yanbing was even more powerful than she was and had completely suppressed Feng Wu. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and looked at him with hostility. "Gosh, you're such a pair of father and daughter. Why are you staring at each other like two cross-eyed birds?" A pleasant voice came from a short distance away. Feng Wu didn't look back, but the woman casually walked up to Feng Wu, looked her in the eye, and suddenly smiled. "This is Xiao Wu, isn't it? It's been years since we last met, but she's already so pretty." Feng Wu stared at the Princess Royal of the Dian Empire. "Have you met me before?" The Princess Royal smiled brightly. "Of course. I held you in my arms when you were little, and you don't remember it at all. Well, you were only a baby then. How can you remember?" That was interesting. The Princess Royal had met Feng Wu when she was a baby. "So, the question is, where did you meet me, and in what capacity?" Instead of feeling embarrassed, Princess Royal chuckled. She then turned to Feng Yanbing. "Honey, Xiao Wu is quite serious. She looks at me as if I've stolen her father." Feng Wu glanced at the Princess Royal. This Princess Royal was harder to handle than she had expected. If she was easily provoked by Feng Wu's words, she wouldn't be easy to handle. However, her indifference made it impossible to read her mind. But Feng Wu had never been afraid of anyone. She smirked. "Don't try to change the subject. Let's face it. What? Is that question difficult to answer, or are you afraid?" "How dare you!" Feng Yanbing scolded Feng Wu. However, Feng Wu wasn't intimidated. She smirked and said, "So, when were you and Princess Royal together? Was it before or after you married my mother?" Or was it when my mother was pregnant with me? Is it that hard to answer? Do you think I won't be able to find out if you don't answer? Do you take me for an idiot? Feng Yanbing was furious. He had always considered himself a decent man, but he had never expected such a sharp-tongued, defiant daughter. Shut up! Feng Yanbing bellowed and charged at Feng Wu. A figure blocked his way. It was Luo Zibo, the eldest brother of the Luo family. He stood in front of Feng Wu and stared at Feng Yanbing coldly. That's very impressive. Luo Zibo gave him a half-smile. You may not consider Xiao Wu your daughter, but the Luo family treats her like our own child. You can't hurt her. Feng Yanbing threw a dirty look at Feng Wu. He didn't invite her here to hurt her. The Princess Royal gave Feng Yanbing a meaningful look, and he nodded. He forced a smile. Xiao Wu, that's not what I meant. It's been years since we last met, and it's inevitable that we're not familiar with each other. There were some misunderstandings between us, but I'm your father, and that's a fact that can't be changed. Feng Yanbing wanted to build a relationship, but Feng Wu only waved him off. Chapter 4182 Princess Royal's Husband 2, uttered by Bexenville. Siamikronim, I don't have time for this. You know why I'm here today. Hand over my mother and Xiaoqi. Kiddo, why do you say that? They're your mother and brother, but they're my. Feng Wu asked indifferently. Your what? Feng Yanbing almost choked. He had expected Feng Wu to be difficult to talk to, but he didn't expect her to be so sarcastic. He waved her off. Let's talk about that later. The princess has prepared a courtyard for you and decorated it according to your preferences. From now on, you'll be living in the princess residence. That way we can make up for some of the loss. Wait, what did you say? The princess residence? Feng Wu gave Feng Yanbing a strange look. What's wrong with you? I'm living comfortably with the Luo family. Why should I stay here? And please don't change the subject. Where are my mother and Xiaoqi? Xiao Wu, your father is right. You too, thump. Feng Wu flared ud. What was wrong with these people? Why wouldn't they listen to her? Why did they have to make her angry? Feng Wu had a short temper, and she was a terrifying spiritual sovereign. As soon as she made a move, mud began to fall down from the roof of the Princess Royal's residence. I see that you're not going to bring my mother and Xiaoqi out to see me today. In that case, I'll have to go find them myself. After that, Feng Wu headed for the rooms in the back. Feng Wu had Little Phoenix sneak into the backyard to look for her mother when Feng Yanbing was still bickering. With Little Phoenix's stealth ability, even someone as powerful as Feng Yanbing didn't notice it. Here! Little Phoenix's voice rang out in Feng Wu's head. It had found her mother and Xiaoqi. Hence, Feng Wu ran in that direction. Feng Yanbing and the Princess Royal exchanged looks, and both saw astonishment in each other's eyes. How did she know where the mother and son lived? Xiao Wu. Feng Yanbing wanted to stop her, but the Luo brothers weren't just for show. The 4 Luo brothers had all come with Feng Wu. Right now, they all stepped out to stop Feng Yanbing. Feng Yanbing had no choice but to stop, but his face was livid. Feng Wu kicked the door open. Feng Wu heard the Princess Royal's angry and flustered voice behind her. The moment Feng Wu rushed in, someone charged at her. He was a capable cultivator, a spiritual sovereign. Feng Wu wouldn't have been able to withstand that strike if she had been on Dynasty Road before. However, after the journey, she had changed completely. Therefore, she kicked the man away. Get lost! The spiritual sovereign was one of the top cultivators in the Princess Royal, but Feng Wu had kicked him over the wall and sent him flying. No one knew how he was doing. Meanwhile, Feng Wu finally saw the beautiful lady and Xiaoqi. The beautiful lady was ghastly pale and haggard. All that was left of her was skin and bones, and now, she looked like an old woman. Xiaoqi was tied to the bed with a cut on his chest. If Feng Wu hadn't arrived in time, his heart would have been cut out. The 4 Luo brothers were astonished. They only received the news yesterday that Feng Wu was in the princess' residence, and they had brought her here today. However, they had never expected that the daughter of the Luo family would end up like this. Damn it. Chapter 4183. Save their daughter. One. Feng Wu went up to her mother and steadied her. The beautiful lady was still unconscious. Mother? Mother? The beautiful lady woke up and burst into tears as soon as she saw Feng Wu. Xiao Wei, mother! Feng Wu felt so sorry for her. How could her mother be mistreated like this? And there was Xiaoqi. Feng Wu examined Xiaoqi and let out a breath of relief when she saw that he was still breathing. While Feng Wu carried the beautiful lady, Luo Zilin went up to Xiaoqi. Luo Zilin knew that Feng Wu was furious, but he still tried to calm her down. They're badly injured. Let's go back to the Luo family and wait for them to recover. Deal? Luo Zilin knew what Feng Wu was like. If she lost her temper, the entire Princess Royal's residence would be destroyed. It just so happened that the Princess Royal wasn't someone they could afford to offend either. If they started fighting, a war would break out. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu told herself that her mother and Xiaoqi's injuries were of utmost importance. She needed to calm down. Just then, the Princess Royal said coldly, "You're not leaving." Feng Wu opened her eyes and stared at the Princess Royal. Somehow, the capable Princess Royal felt threatened at that moment, and she panicked a little. Panic? The Princess Royal thought that she was hallucinating. "You're not leaving." After that, the Princess Royal turned to Feng Yanbing. Feng Yanbing took the hint and cleared his throat. "Xiao Wu, let's talk." Actually, however, before Feng Yanbing could finish, Feng Wu cut him off. "You should count yourselves lucky. I'm busy saving my mother and Xiaoqi, so I don't have time to take care of you yet. We're leaving." Feng Wu kept walking after that. "Stop!" The Princess Royal struck out with her sword. Thump! To the Princess Royal's surprise, Feng Wu threw the sword back at her. The blade brushed past the Princess Royal's cheek and almost left a bloody mark. "What, you're a spiritual sovereign?" Feng Yanbing was as surprised as the Princess Royal was. That was so. Feng Wu ignored them. "You're still not leaving." The Princess Royal nudged Feng Yanbing and gave him a warning look. If they left now, what would happen to their Ning heir? Would she die? Feng Yanbing blocked Feng Wu's way again and forced himself to say, "Xiao Wu, you've misunderstood us. Your mother and Xiaoqi, they're here to help. What will happen to Ning heir if you take them away like this? She's waiting for them to save her." The look on Feng Wu's face was very stern. She had vaguely seen a girl lying on the bed in the middle of the room. As expected, when Feng Wu looked over her shoulder, she saw a girl about 13 lying on the bed. Her eyes were closed and her face was pale. It was obvious that she had passed out. Seeing that Feng Wu had turned to look, Feng Yanbing said in a hurry, "That's your sister we're talking about here. Are you going to let her die just like that? Your sisters." Feng Wu finally figured out everything. She stared at Feng Yanbing. "Did you have a baby with that woman?" Feng Yanbing said, "Yes." Feng Wu wanted to laugh. She used to imagine what her father, whom she had never met, would be like. Chapter 4184. Save their daughter, too. Would he be as powerful and wise as her master? Would he dote on her and protect her like her senior brothers? However, she lost all hope as soon as she saw Feng Yanbing. She would rather not see him at all. Feng Wu gritted her teeth and stressed each word. "So, you took my mother and Xiaoqi here to treat that girl?" Feng Wu spoke in a low voice, but anyone who knew her well could tell that she was furious. But Feng Yanbing didn't know Feng Wu well, so he nodded and said, "Ning heir needs your mother's blood and Xiaoqi's." "Xiaoqi's what?" Feng Wu stared at Feng Yanbing. Feng Wu smirked. "If you don't tell me, do you think Mum and Xiaoqi won't tell me when they wake up?" The beautiful lady only woke up for a brief moment, but she was too weak. Feng Wu was worried sick when her mother passed out again. I need Xiaoqi's heart, Feng Yanbing blurted out in the end. You're shameless. Feng Wu tried to slap him. Unfortunately, she missed because Feng Yanbing stumbled back and dodged Feng Wu's strike. I know it'll damage Xiaoqi's health, but don't worry. Even without his heart, he'll still be alive. I can keep him alive. Feng Wu stared at Feng Yanbing. She used to think that what Feng Yanfeng did was shameless enough, but what Feng Yanbing did now was abominable. Xiaoqi is my child, so of course I won't kill him. Even if he has to stay in bed forever, I'll make sure that. Feng Wu couldn't stand it anymore. She wanted to kill someone. Feng Yanbing, you're a piece of work. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. From now on, I'll never forgive you. Why can't you understand? Xiaoqi won't die, but he can save Ning Er. As your father, Feng Wu was furious. She was furious because she couldn't kill him now. Let's go. It was already very rare for Feng Wu to be able to fight back her anger and not kill him right now. Don't let them go. Take Feng Wu down. The Princess Royal gave the order. Feng Wu and her team might not be their match, for the Princess Royal's residence was filled with capable cultivators. However, at that critical moment they heard a cold voice. Who dares to stop my family? It was the head of the Luo family. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, one of the Luo brothers rushed back home to get help. Seeing the person in Feng Wu's arms, Master Luo felt sorry for her. Princess Royal's face turned livid. She gritted her teeth and stared at Master Luo. Luo Nantian, are you really going to fight me for a sister who has been banished from the Luo family? Banished from the Luo family, Master Luo said coldly. If your Royal Highness wants to fight, I'll accept the challenge. The Princess Royal asked, Are you sure about that? There was a cold look in Master Luo's eyes. My sister has been mistreated. Do you think this is over? Fine. Luo Nantian, I didn't believe it when people said that you were rebelling, but it seems that you've disrespected me, the Princess Royal, and have no respect for the royal family at all. If you take her back today, I'll go to His Majesty now. Be my guest. Master Luo flipped his sleeve and gestured at Feng Wu. Everyone watched as Master Luo took Feng Wu and the others back home. Chapter 4185. You're such a father, the Luo family. Looking over his shoulder, Luo Nantian saw that Feng Wu had lowered her head. She was stiff, and there was a cold look in her eyes. He sighed and patted Feng Wu on the shoulder. Kiddo, everything. Feng Wu didn't reply. Right now, she was focused on treating the beautiful lady and Xiaoqi. With her taut face, she gave off such a chilly air that no one dared to go near her. It pained him to see her like this. Luo Nantian was waiting in the main hall when Feng Wu came out. How's your mother? Luo Nantian asked. Feng Wu was still furious. She hated herself for not being capable enough. Otherwise, she could have destroyed the entire Princess Royal's manor. But now, she had to put up with it for a while. Feng Wu took a deep breath and asked Luo Nantian, Uncle, what happened back then? What's the relationship between my mother and Feng Yanbing? What role does Princess Royal play? Seeing the serious look on Feng Wu's face, Luo Nantian couldn't help but beckoned her over. Your mother would be more suitable to tell you that. Mum has been crying non-stop. Feng Wu shook her head. Her head has been injured, and she only has the intelligence of a 5-year-old. She has forgotten everything and knows nothing except for the pain. Tears welled up in Feng Wu's eyes. Feng Yanbing and the Princess Royal have crossed the line. A 5-year-old? Luo Nantian jumped to his feet. Feng Wu's mother was Lady Xuanji, formerly known as Luo Xuanji. She used to be the favorite daughter of the Luo family, but now... Luo Nantian turned to Luo Zilin. Luo Zilin nodded. Yes, that's true. It took Luo Nantian a while to digest the information. In the end, he told Feng Wu about what happened between Luo Xuanji and Feng Yanbing. It turned out that Feng Yanbing had come to the Dian Empire because of a special opportunity. Because he was still young and wasn't as capable as the people of the Dayan Empire, he had a hard time and almost became a beggar. Then, by sheer luck, I don't know if it was a coincidence or a trap. Luo Nantian snorted. Your mother met your father and she took him back home and made him her guard. Nominally, he's a guard, but in fact, he's not a guard at all. Feng Yanbing is a sweet talker and all about cajoling your mother. He's devoted to her. He may look like an indomitable man, but in fact, he puts your mother first in everything. Back then, your mother was crazy in love, and all she wanted to do was to do her best for him. Your mother gave him all the resources she needed for her own cultivation, then stole more from us. In the end, she gave them all to him. That Feng Yanbing is indeed a talented cultivator, but he was able to make breakthroughs in the past few years mostly because your mother fed him with cultivation resources at all costs. Then, Feng Yanbing reached a bottleneck, and your mother was bold enough to steal the Dark Frost Immortal pistol, the family clan's ultimate treasure, for him. Our father needed it for his breakthrough. At the last moment of his cultivation, he almost lost his mind because of the lack of the Dark Frost Immortal pistol. Although he was able to suppress it in the end, he was still injured. Our father has made many enemies over the years, and when they learned that he had failed his breakthrough, they joined hands and invaded the Luo family. Many members of the Luo family died because of it, and father was severely injured in the end. Chapter 4186. You're such a father, too. He had no choice but to give his family an explanation. In the end, he kicked your mother out of the clan, and even banished her from the Dayan Empire. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. How could her mother have been so foolish back then? How could she have been tricked by Feng Yanbing? However, when she recalled Feng Yanbing's face and his righteous reasoning, she realized that it would be a disaster for an innocent girl to run into such a person. You're the ones who have taught my mother to be too kind and too naive. Feng Wu shook her head. Luo Zilin rolled his eyes at Feng Wu. You sound as if you didn't protect your mother too much. Feng Wu said, She couldn't argue with that. Who wouldn't want to look after the beautiful lady? Feng Yanbing was the only scumbag that could fool her like this. Then what's with the Princess Royal? Feng Yanbing came back to the Dayan Empire and became her husband. You should know that. Didn't any of you react? As for the Princess Royal, she has always been proud of her good looks, but ever since your mother came along, she became the prettiest girl, and no one praised the Princess Royal anymore. Therefore, the Princess Royal has always been jealous of your mother and resentful toward her. She was already married to the Murong family, and Feng Yanbing had been working as a cultivator in the princess residence. Somehow, the princess divorced the Murong family and married Feng Yanbing. Luo Zilin said, Feng Yanbing also said that your mother died in childbirth. Feng Wu was furious. Damn it! Luo Zilin nodded. Father didn't want to forgive your mother, nor did he allow us to ask around about her. Hence, the incident was put aside for so many years, which only made Feng Yanbing's life easier. But Feng Yanbing should never have taken your mother and brother away and used them to save Ning Air. Luo Nantian smacked the table angrily. Feng Wu nodded and said, Feng Yanbing is so unbelievable. My mother's and Zioki's lives are nothing compared to his and Princess Royal's Ning Air's. That's just preposterous. I want let them off the hook for what they did. Heavenly Dao said, You don't know what you're up against. Princess Royal is His Majesty's sister and the only sister he has left. His Majesty is a very protective person. If she says she's going to the palace to ask for help, she really will. Feng Wu smirked. I'd like to see them turn black into white. Feng Wu turned to leave after that. Where are you going? Luo Zilin stopped Feng Wu. I need to cultivate, Feng Wu said calmly. If I were a peak spiritual sovereign today, I wouldn't have to worry so much. I could have just killed Feng Yanbing. That way, I wouldn't have to suffer like this. Feng Wu marched off after that. Luo Zilin looked from Feng Wu to Luo Nantian in disbelief. Is she really going to kill? Luo Zilin was surprised. Luo Nanshan's face was livid as well. Do they think they can hurt my family just like that? Luo Zilin. Yes. Find Feng Yanbing's travel route. Yes. Although Luo Zilin had no idea what his father was up to, it was obvious that he wanted to avenge Feng Wu and her family. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.